Drivers, start your engines!
It's MRN Motorsports Monday, the place for the latest news and loudest opinions, direct from the guys at the track. Presented by Outback Steakhouse. This program is rated VNGSN and may contain scenes of verbal nonsense and graphic shenanigans. Viewer discretion is advised.
Oscar, my baloney has a first name.
Today's episode is brought to you by Hercules Tires.
Pace car is on.
Here's Woody Cain
Everyone knows your name, Woody.
and Joey Meier.
I forgot I was Joey. I'm Spotter. Sorry. First problem solved. Nice job.
It's a spring break edition of Motorsports Monday, presented by Outback Steakhouse, as we reassess where we stand after the first 7 races of the season on the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series size. I'm Woody. He's Joey. We'll talk a lot about what's been going on so far, and we had this conversation right before we came on the air talking about all the things that are going on with the racing so far. We'll delve into all 3 series. We'll do a little on-track, off-track. They've announced the format for the All-Star race, the Monster Energy All-Star race coming up at Charlotte in May when you get 2 weeks off, and it's a great time of year.
Yep. Happy Easter weekend to everybody.
Where are your ears?
Fresh
you
off
wore 'em
of,
on the show. I thought you might.
Fresh off special assignment. special assignment. For those of you who missed us last week.
Right.
Last week I was gone. I was on
Special
assignment.
Right.
We've
How'd that go, by the way?
It went very fantastic.
All right.
A little out of the country experience for some sponsor requirements. We're back in the country now. They let us back in.
All right.
Yeah.
There
we
you go.
didn't have to climb any walls or anything. We just
Well,
walked right in.
It's not built. You got to worry about that.
The couple of surprises this year, a couple of disappointments I think this year, and then a couple of not so different disappointment surprises. So we'll talk about those as we go on. But the new All-Star rule's kind of interesting. The tire guys are ecstatic. Now they have 2 different kinds of tires to work on.
Have you ever experienced anything like that before? We'll talk more about this a little bit later on, but have you ever been able to choose tires during a race before?
No. As far back as street stocks, late models, we've never had a variation of tire compounds, if you will. That was one of the things that was always a governing body's choice to go to, mandating tires. They might open up some rules, whether it's engines, transmission, weights, but the tire rule was always one tire rule.
Even back in the Goodyear Hoosier days, you picked one and you had that set.
Exactly right. You weren't allowed to go between Goodyear and Hoosier. Once you went with the Hoosier tire, as famously Jeff Bodine was killing everybody with the Hoosier tires, but they were so soft and gummy they ended up having failures, and that's why we got away from a tire war with Goodyear and Hoosier, because simply the competition was breeding to where the tire manufacturers were giving up some safety to try to gain some advantages in performance. But once you chose a Hoosier, you weren't allowed to go to a Goodyear. So this is a very interesting direction that NASCAR's gone with to try to liven things up and the strategy. And the crew chiefs are already having their calculators and acabuses out and slide rules. And
you name it, they got it. Right.
Exactly right.
Yeah, there you go. There's the word of the day.
That's
All right.
it.
It's excellent. We've got a big show for you today on Motorsports Monday. On track, off track, as we said. Joey's blood pressure was up when we were talking about the topic before we came on the air. We'll also take a look at where things stand in all 3 of NASCAR's major national touring series, and we'll do all that right after this.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I'm on that onion to bloom, and it get in my senses like a sonic boom. No rules, just right. So bold, so nice, and I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse, blooming great.
If you or your family love the freedom of swimming any time of year, if you love sharing good times and making great memories, or if you want one of the best total body workouts ever, then it's time to discover the 3 C's of your very own endless pool. The first C is convenience. Imagine swimming year-round in your own private swimming pool, installed indoors or out, just steps away. The second C is comfort. With sculpted spa seats and your own adjustable temperature, you can easily escape the stress of your day. And the third C is cost. Your endless pool is an affordable luxury at a fraction of the cost of a regular pool. And here's a bonus C, choice. Because when you call for your free Endless Pool Idea Kit, you'll receive information on our full line of pools to suit your budget and location.
Call now for free information. 800-283-8089. 800-283-8089.
I'm Eric Jones, and you're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with Joey Meier and Woody Cain.
Eric Jones, a
Eric
young
Jones.
driver, and to me, that's the theme of this early part of the season so far. We got Kyle Larson leading the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, Chase Elliott right behind him, Ryan Blaney having a big year. In the Xfinity Series, the veteran Elliott Sadler leads, but nipping at his heels, a rookie, William Byron, over there with Junior Motorsports. In the Truck Series, another veteran leads, Johnny Sauter, but nipping at his heels, young Christopher Bell, who was in the playoffs last year in the Truck Series. Young guys are coming up.
In the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series, I don't know if there's that many surprises as, like you say, with the youth coming up with William Byron, who has that big R next to his name. But we've become complacent with allowing rookies to not run well. We expect them to jump in these seats, and every time the R really doesn't mean anything anymore. It just means they haven't been in the car for a full year. We have seen Eric Jones leading, I believe, the rookie.
Right, Byron won 7 races in the Truck Series a year ago.
Exactly
he knows
right.
How to race.
And he had an R next to his name then. So we just forget that years ago, back in the 2000, one of the best rookie battles we had was Dale Jr. and Matt Kenseth. Those guys, when they won a race, it was miraculous. Wow, they won a race. Now we expect our rookies to win a race. If they don't, it's almost disappointing. Like last year, Chase Elliott was so close so many times.
And he is again.
Exactly right. And Ryan Blaney had a fantastic opportunity to win his first race in Texas. But we just see these young superstars rising to the top, and it's become expected of them. And we get complacent in the fact that we forget they're rookies. We forget it's their first or second full year. Eric Jones leading the points in the rookies. We've got Daniel Suarez and Ty Dillon with a tight battle with those guys. Again, young drivers who are performing at levels that we just get used to the fact that we expect them to run this good every week.
Here's what's funny. They had a test this past week at Daytona.
Yep.
They're trying to work on keeping the cars on the ground, especially when they get backwards. And Joey Logano had a media session during that lunch break at that test. And he was asked about all these young guys coming up in the Cup Series. So-and-so's this age, so-and-so's that age. And they're talking to Joey Logano like he's the grizzled veteran. And I guess since he started so young, he is. But he goes, I don't really feel that old. I'm only 26.
Exactly.
Are you kidding me?
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, a handful of years ago, Brad Keselowski was looked as the young kid, and he was 27, 28, 29 years old.
Yeah.
And now we forget years ago you had the Dick Trickles of the world, the Harry Gants of the world. That Dick Trickle was a rookie in the late 40s, early 50 years of his age. So the transition to the young superstars, the phenoms of the world, we really just get so inundated with how many of there are. We get used to it. We get complacent in realizing how special their talents are.
Remember, you mentioned Harry Gant, and that triggered a story that I heard once that Michael Waltrip told. Harry Gant, remember when he was in his toward the end of his career, but he got on a real hot streak and won 3, 4 in a row, something like that.
Mr. October won 5 in a row.
Yeah, was just going strong and kicking everybody's butt, and they were like, how was he doing this? He was in his early 50s at the time, I believe, and Michael Waltrip talked about the 600. They ran that thing, and it's a long, grueling race, and it's hot during the day and all that. And this is when it was primarily in the daytime before the era of lights at Charlotte, and Harry would sail that car in there, the old Skull Bandit, and diamond the turns. Just let it drift up and then come on back down. Just easy peasy. These other guys, Michael Waltrip included, fell out of the seat and were just laying there panting after the race, and Harry Gant walks by fresh as a daisy and says, you boys better get busy.
That's it.
He's the older guy that we're not used to seeing these younger guys make such an impact, because as well as anyone, back in the day, you used to have to prove you could come up through the ranks and not tear up a bunch of equipment and learn, and now if you're young and you show an inkling of talent, somebody's going to grab you like a William Byron.
Yep. Mr. October with Harry Gant, that was the introduction to cambered rear ends. That's what
really?
made them so
Okay,
successful.
cool. Important trivia there.
And Andy Petrie was the crew chief and Harry Gant, and that's where cambered rear ends became very popular. He was at the forefront of technology. But yeah, we have become complacent with what these young drivers can do, and now we just expect it.
Yeah, it seems normal almost. And you look back through the ranks here, some guys in the Cup side, if the playoffs were to start today, you guys have 2 wins.
Yes.
You guys have 2 wins, and now you're carrying points you accumulate during the season, playoff points, with you to keep at the end of the season.
Yeah, an unusual stat, we don't have any stage wins yet, but we lead the playoff points with 10 because of the ever-important 2 wins, garnering 5 points apiece. So we have 10 playoff points without any stage wins. Truex, I believe, has the most stage wins with 4, and he has 9 playoff points. So it's a different philosophy this year. Even though you try to win the race, Later on, I think we're going to hear your opinion on what you think about stage points. But
we'll talk a little bit about that on on-track, off-track. But I wanted to ask you specifically the feel of it from the roof when you're spotting before you're thinking the long game, the big picture, because you have to. That's how you get the most points and win a championship. Now they're sprinkling out opportunities to get points along the way. Does that change the way you guys strategize during an event or going into an event?
Yeah, 100%. If you just run 3 stages and the first 2 are quarters and the last one's a half, you gear yourself up to try to position yourselves to gain the most amount of points because you know the breadcrumbs are out there and you're trying to pick them up. You know, ET's laying those little M&Ms down. You're trying to scarf them up and feed your face with playoff points because you understand how important they are to try to get those stage wins. But if you can't get the stage win, you're still looking at points that garner for the whole season, not just the playoffs, and those are important. As we saw with Ryan Blaney, not only was able to get stage wins, but he had a good overall points day. And we don't like to say it's a good points day, but it really matters as we get towards the end of the season, and we're going to see come Richmond how important those points are. And you're getting them 3 different times. That's what's really cool. You can get race points that count for the whole season 3 different occasions during the season as long as you can finish in that top 10. And we definitely see strategy when the caution comes out with less than 10 laps to go before the stage, you make a decision. Am I going to go for the stage points or am I going to come and get tires and try to win the race? And it kind of it gives the opportunity.
Or even the next stage.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So it gives the crew chiefs and the drivers and the entire team an incentive to different strategies based on the ability to know a caution's coming out, not a random debris caution as we've seen in the past, and you get to play your race out through the entire day.
Yeah, and I look back through the numbers here, and that's going on across all 3 series, not just at the Cup level.
Yep.
But looking at some, I like to see strange numbers and think about, wow, has that ever happened before? You look at Kyle Larson, he's got the win, but 4 second-place finishes. You look at a guy like Bubba Wallace, 4th in the Xfinity Series. What is it, 5 straight sixth-place finishes now?
Yep.
That stuff just doesn't happen. What are the odds of that?
Somebody could run the numbers.
Somebody could, smarter
run the
than us,
numbers.
with a calculator with fresh batteries.
Yep. One of the surprises of this year, we talked about Bubba Wallace, but Roush Fenway Racing has definitely shown a peak of performance with Trevor Bayne Stenhouse over in the Monster Energy Cup Series and Darrell Wallace running, again, can't be much more consistent than 5 sixth-place finishes. They've only run 6 races.
Yeah.
And Daytona was the race, I believe, where he didn't finish 6th, but he had the next 6 or next 5 were 6th-place finishes, which is pretty interesting.
And to your point, his teammate Ryan Reed is 3rd in the standings on the Xfinity side.
And won Daytona.
Yeah, right, has a win. So now he can kind of throw haymakers instead of being careful.
Exactly right. So kudos to Roush Fenway. We've talked about him last year. They needed to pick up their game, and so far early in 2017 they have.
Yeah, and you look at the truck side, we mentioned Johnny Sauter leading it, the defending champion of the Camping World Truck Series. 4 points behind is Christopher Bell. Then the veterans, Matt Kraft and Timothy Peters in 3rd and 4th. Kaz Grala got the win at Daytona. He's tied with Ben Rhodes for 5th. Then a couple of rookies, Chase Briscoe and Grant Enfinger, who won Talladega last year.
Yeah, the truck side of things, we've seen in my side directly involved with Brad Keselowski Racing and Austin Cindric. We've only run 3 races. We haven't been able to get up on our feet, and we keep getting knocked down and sliding around. Ran a lap and a half at Daytona before being wrecked with a wreck in front of us. Had a good chance at a top 5 finish at Atlanta, spun out with 2 or 3 laps to go, and then really disappointed about our Martinsville finish. While in the meantime, Chase Briscoe, our teammate, ran really good at Martinsville. We'd been there earlier. We expected high things. So again, this truck series is just getting going. I know here we are in April already, but they've only run 3 races, so now we're trying to get our feet back under us. But realistically, Johnny Sauter, Christopher Bell, Matt Kraft in your top 3. No surprises there.
Yeah, let's take a quick look. You mentioned earlier the All-Star race and the change in format there. Let's take a look at that and kind of break it down. You've got a little combination of stage racing and heat racing, I think, because if you win a stage, you make it to the finals in the Open and in the All-Star race itself, so you can help yourself early on and lock in that spot.
That's it. You see the 3 segments there, 20 laps apiece to try to get you back into the final segment. And they threw a little caveat in. They give you a different set of soft, gummy tires to use any of those segments to try to get up and try to either win or finish, because it's done to transfers done by average finishes.
Yeah, so you can't just park. Yeah.
That's it. So if you've done...
If you win a segment.
You win a segment, you can't park.
Right.
It's done by averages, so we can utilize those gummy tires to try to gain a little bit of a jump and leapfrog, if you will, over some of the other drivers to increase that average finish.
It'll be really interesting to see, A, how much faster those stickier, softer tires are, and B, how long they last, how long they hold up. If you get to the front, can you stay there?
Well, that's what the crew chiefs, that's why they have those nice houses on the lake.
Exactly. All right, we've got a whole lot more coming up on Motorsports Monday, including on track, off track. Joey's blood pressure's come down just a little bit now, but we'll get it jacked back up again after this.
Citywide to countryside, whatever you drive, wherever you go. Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there, no matter where the road takes you. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I'm on that onion to bloom, and it get in my senses like a sonic boom. No rules, just right. So bold, so nice, and I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse, blooming great.
Live sports are the one true reality entertainment, where a single dramatic moment can become timeless. In NASCAR, Motor Racing Network's live broadcast elevates your senses to the sights, sounds, and struggles taking place on the racetrack.
Keselowski to the bottom of the racetrack. He tries to slide up. Newman is there. Sideways is Keselowski.
The power of radio to the imagination of the listener. Tune in to the Motor Racing Network. Visit MRN.com for an affiliate list in your local area.
I'm Landon Castle, and you're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with Joey Meier, and Woody Cain. Yes. And you're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with Joey Meier and Woodward Cain. Those guys, is this a country? This is a country band, isn't it?
Woody's Roundup, come on and gather round.
Well, there you go. Our guest last week. You can feel the love in that rejoin.
Yeah, I missed that because I was on special assignment.
Exactly. But we appreciate Landon being on with us last week. He was a lot of fun, always is. A lot of good insight into Texas and Bristol coming up. We'll talk a little bit more about Bristol toward the end of the show, but now it's time for on track, off track. We haven't had a full-blown on track, off track in a while, but I think now with the break, it's a good time to kind of reset and reassess some things. So in your world, what's on? What's going well?
You know, we're 7 races into a brand new major sponsor for the top series of NASCAR. Monster Energy has come into the sport for several years and given us the accolades of being able to wrap our arms around their sponsorship. And whenever a sponsor comes in, it's called sponsor activation. And different sponsors have different techniques on how to activate or how to make you interested in their product. Why are we going to watch Monster Energy? I think we've seen an amazing job by Monster Energy, whether it's been their Monster Energy girls, their Monster Energy hats.
But wait a minute, a lot of people have been squalling about, oh, it's horrible, it's the end of an era, the Monster Energy girls. They're not wearing fire suits in victory lane.
Yeah,
Has that ever happened before?
You know, it's funny how Texas Motor Speedway has their Texas girls that we've seen for several years, and they just kind of fly under the radar. They have actually less clothing on than the Monster Energy girls, or an equal amount of clothing.
Dude,
so
they had the
represent
Wild Asphalt Circus and were shooting a woman out of a cannon over the top of the Xfinity garage. So let's.
But Monster's done a really good job of being active in our sport by being a leader in whatever they're doing. Whether it's going around to the garages and handing out hats or handing out some Monster Energy. We all need a little caffeine in our lives, right?
Yeah.
They've done a very good job of promoting the sport by allowing the participants to engage with Monster Energy in as well. Unusual circumstance in the fact that not only are they sponsoring the sport, but they also sponsor a team with Kurt Busch. And what kind of black helicopter conspiracy could you say that their first race as a sponsor, they win the Daytona 500?
Of course they do.
Right, but you'd have to see the entire race to understand how it took Kurt Busch to get there. So kudos to Monster Energy. I think 7 races in, you can see where this is going to take it to the next level, engaging a different audience than we had with the previous sponsor.
I think that's what's key about them. We talked with some of their folks when they made the announcement out in Vegas, and they hadn't at that point had a 30-second television commercial. I've seen one recently, they do now, but their marketing approach was completely different. A lot of social media, a lot of vibe to make whatever they're sponsoring feel like, hey, this is a cool place to be. You should check it out. They're starting to try and work now to combine some efforts with some other sports they're doing. We may see that down the road at some of the tracks we go to for the rest of the schedule, but I agree. I think they're really doing a great job so far in terms of engaging that younger demographic, especially, that everybody wants to see. All right, for me, on track is something that we talked a little bit about a moment ago, the stage racing. I really believe this has been one of the best tools to generate excitement during a race in a long, long time. I know some traditionalists might disagree, but think about it. You have quarters and halves in football, basketball, baseball, innings along the way, stages where you can get things. This is a similar way to make it so that there are things that they're racing for during the race, early and late, not just at the end. And the reality of it is, Joey, is as many drivers as we both heard say, no, we're racing as hard as we can all the time. You have to do that in the back of your mind, I got to make it to the end of this thing. So do I squeeze it 3 wide here at lap 20 to try and win a stage, which didn't exist before? In the old days, you just, nah, not quite yet. I got to make it to the end of this thing in order to get points. Now it's a whole new dynamic.
Yeah, we go back to Martinsville, the last lap, coming to the green checker of the first stage. Kyle Busch clearly has a lead on Chase Elliott, no problem. He kind of relaxes a little bit because we're coming to a green checker. He's going to allow, he had just lapped Ricky Stenhouse. They're coming to the green checker. What does Stenhouse do? Gets into the leader, pushes the leader out of the groove. The second place car passes the first. Stenhouse gets back on the lead lap. You don't see that until the last lap of the race, and then essentially that's only for one position. But Stenhouse,
it changes the dynamic if he knows when the caution is coming
Exactly
out.
right. And Stenhouse does that because of the stage. He doesn't make that move coming to a regular white and black checker because it's irrelevant. The move doesn't pay off.
Him at all. He's still the same position.
It's still the same position. But because of the importance of coming to the green checker and realizing that if I stay on the lead lap for this first stage, it's going to change my entire race. And it did, because it paid off with a top 10 finish for that team.
Yeah, and it's really it's fun to watch. It makes those stage ends really something to check out and give you some incentive to watch these guys battle for it during a race with the risk of not finishing and not getting the 5 points twice like you guys have done. All right, let's talk a little off track, because I think we're both kind of on the same wavelength here in what we believe is off track, but maybe for different reasons. We've seen in the early part of the season, as we mentioned, 7 races in on the Cup side, inspection problems. We've seen guys not making it to qualifying. We've seen guys dock practice time. We've seen guys say, all right, well, I'll just sit back here and start back in the race then if I don't make qualifying. That'll be okay. Jimmy Johnson had to start toward the rear when he got his win because of technical issues getting through inspection. We're having an issue with guys getting through. Why?
One of the largest parts of our race car that moves is the engine. Okay, the rule book says 350 cubic inch engine is allowed. We have tolerance up to 358 cubic inches, but that's not the only measurement. We have weight measurements on rods and on rocker arms and different specifications for that engine that have been going on for years. When's the last time we saw a motor fail post-race inspection?
I can't remember, honestly.
Exactly right. So these teams are good enough to make things into the 3 digits of measurements, 0.001 measurements. When they know what the tolerances are, they're going to take a tolerance. Pit road speed, 35 mile an hour at Martinsville, they give you 4.99. We didn't see everybody speeding. We saw a handful of guys because we're now measuring speed with a tachometer versus a mile an hour gauge, and we're trying to translate those information. Sometimes we break the tolerance.
With the new digital dash, why don't you just put a speedometer on it?
Speedometers aren't allowed in NASCAR. That's a NASCAR rule. That's for a different discussion. But we utilize the tools that are allowed by the rule book. We have a tachometer. But we're trying to convert a tachometer speed, which doesn't give us single-digit tachometer. It only gives us 10. So an RPM of 7,510 RPMs is the most detailed we can get. So sometimes we're a little over. The inspection process for these cars is the same. It's done by the same guys. These guys don't get dumb when they go from working on the engine to the cars. Yeah. We have slugs, we have shims, and we can get the car. The problem is the inspection process and the device being used, the tolerance and the accuracy of the machine comes into question by many crew guys. And that's where, if NASCAR needs to get a crew guy or some teams involved to get a better device to make a better measurement. That's where we need to come in. But to have 16 cars going through inspection at Texas that can't get through, from a bottom-end, lower-funded team to the upper echelon of the Dale Juniors, we don't need to see these cars sitting in inspection. We have to become a better company or a better source or a better resource to become a better line drawn in the sand.
A better sport.
A better sport as a whole. If it takes team involvement to build a better machine, so be it.
I have seen the frustration that you talk about when I've been in the garage in the pit area during practice or during races when all this is going on, not during races, but during the build-up to the race, where crew chiefs are just frustrated as can be because they can't get their cars through tech. And now the situation is you have 3 stations essentially that you have to go through. Teams, according to what you hear in the garage as well, we're going to NASCAR, and NASCAR says, hey, they said police us, protect us from ourselves, because some guys were manipulating the system, to hear it told, where they would pass one section, pass another section, fail something minor in the last one, go back and fix that minor thing while adjusting something that they had already passed in order to circumvent the system and manipulate the system. So they're saying protect us from ourselves. Now you have to go back through, if you fail any, you have to go back through all 3 to make sure you're not doing that. You're not gaming the system, so to speak. And we know that teams are, as you mentioned, so good that they can push right up to the tolerances. That's what they do. That's how they get fast. But this is a situation where I think it's almost a be careful what you wish for, similar to what we talked about with restart rules. If NASCAR steps in, you might not like how they enforce it.
When you go to a gun range, they give you a target. You can shoot the target. Teams are experienced at hitting the center of the target, but not if it's moving, and that's what we're talking about. The difference is we have to create a target that's more aligned and allow the teams to aim for that target, and we'll see less of these problems going through inspection.
All right, we'll have to leave it there, but we do have a lot more coming up on MRN Motorsports Monday. We'll look ahead at Bristol and tie up a few other loose ends.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I want that onion to bloom, and it get in my senses like a sonic boom. No rules, just right. So bold, so nice, and I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse, blooming great.
Where will you be when NASCAR comes to Chicago's fastest loop? 4 days of racing, tailgating, camping, and music. Come to Chicagoland Speedway September 14th through the 17th. Tickets for Sunday Chicagoland 400 are available now. Camping spots are available and selling fast. All kids tickets $25 off adult price and free on certain race days. Get your tickets and campsite now at ChicagolandSpeedway.com. Chicagoland Speedway, the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series playoffs start here.
After more than 1 million hours of development, the truck of the future has arrived. The new Cascadia from Freightliner, inspired by science, driven by passion. It's loaded with driver-focused improvements, such as noise abatement technologies for an even quieter ride, an innovative wraparound dashboard for improved comfort, and a reimagined driver's lounge that promotes productivity and relaxation. Experience the new Cascadia at your dealer or online at Freightliner.com.
Hey, this is Joey Logano. You're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with Joey Meier and Woody Cain. This show still exists?
Yes, it does still exist. And you know, over the course of the years we've been doing this show, a lot of folks have come to me and said, I wish you would ask Joey this one question. Joey, where do you get your onions?
Where do I get my onions? I get to play with my Joey at Outback Steakhouse, and this show is presented by Outback Steakhouse, but unfortunately, you have to go there yourself and get your own bloomin' onion because Kevin Harvick didn't finish in the top 10.
He couldn't have.
He didn't race. Yeah. But go to Outback Steakhouse, get you a bloomin' onion, center cut sirloins and so forth. They have a great menu over there.
Lunch specials as well. The Joey menu is really the kids' menu. All right, let's talk Bristol. Going there to the short track, the bowl. Everybody loves the big arena, the high banks, the half mile, but the track said they're going to put down the VHT, particularly in the lower lane again.
Yeah, we saw a great performance with the bottom lane being utilized more with the sticky stuff, whatever we call it. It has some initials. We see it in drag racing, but that bottom lane for both the Xfinity and the Cup Series will be able to utilize both lanes, top and bottom, due to the VHT.
Is it really challenging to spot there?
No, it's actually very easy.
All right, Bristol, you can see the whole track without turning your head very much
Exactly
along
right.
the way. That's MRN Motorsports Monday. Don't forget NASCAR Live on Tuesday, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. We will be right back here to break down Bristol for you next Monday. I'm Woody. He's Joey. See you next week.
MRN Motorsports Monday is presented by Outback Steakhouse. Tune in every Monday for another exciting episode right here on MRN.com. Brought to you by Hercules Tires. MRN Motorsports Monday is also available on demand in MRN.com's Media Center, on our Facebook page, on YouTube, and in iTunes or the Google Play Store. MRN Motorsports Monday is a production of the Motor Racing Network.